A very good morning to all. I'm Fanny, the COO and co-founder of Detrack Systems. So we are a vehicle tracking and real-time proof of delivery solution that was launched in 2014. And till date, we have users from more than 45 countries and more than 30 million deliveries have been completed using our platform. So today, I'm really honored and very excited to be able to speak to you about sustainable delivery with the right route planning strategies. So let's get going. With the rising demand for urban freight along with population growth, by 2020, we know that 68% of the world population will be living in urban areas. And by 2025, the City 600, which refers to the world's fastest growing megacities and middleways, will be producing a combined GDP of $30 trillion, driving nearly 65% of the total global growth. And by 2050, we are expecting urban freight deliveries to grow by a significant 40%. So, what does the increase in urban freight means to the infrastructure and the environment? The increase in urban freight will naturally add pressure on the city's infrastructure. And according to the World Economic Forum, it is estimated that the government shortfall to upkeep as well as to develop cities' infrastructure now stands at a whopping $1 trillion. And traffic congestion is eating into the GDP. It has already cost Britain, Germany, and the United States $461 billion. Air pollution is also on the rise, with an estimated 92% of the people living in areas where air pollution levels exceed limits. Governments are now designating and reacting to this air pollution by designating low carbon emission zones, LEZs, to combat the problem of air pollution. If you have not already heard the news recently, world industry leaders like Facebook, Microsoft, IBM, and Coca-Cola have come forward to make a clear stand on sustainability, declaring that profit is no longer their only goal. 150 different fashion brands, including Chanel, Prada, Gucci, and H&M, have joined Emmanuel Macron's Fashion Pact to make the fashion industry more sustainable. And the identified key objective is to eliminate all greenhouse gas emissions by the year 2050. Nestle, the world's largest food producer, has set its targets to eliminate greenhouse gas across its global supply chain by the year 2050 and declared that it would not hesitate to delist suppliers who do not support their targets. So as you can see, there is strong pressure from the business industry leaders exerting strong pressure on creating a global sustainable delivery movement. So what does this pressure mean? This pressure means that it will be cascading down to the third-party logistics players who are handling a large proportion of the world's deliveries, especially in the last mile. But the good news is, for 3PLs, implementing sustainable delivery measures usually means cost savings, and therefore they are more willing to adopt them. So looking at being able to deliver more with less means being able to lower carbon emission, while at the same time being able to reduce empty miles, saving on fuel costs, and higher productivity will also mean lowering manpower costs for the 3PLs. Therefore, we believe that the 3PLs are definitely in the best position to create the largest impact when implementing sustainable delivery in the last mile. So let us now look into some of the sustainable delivery strategies, how they work, their limitations, as well as challenges imposed when planning routes, as well as what a good route plan will look like. So when we talk about sustainable delivery, the topmost strategy that comes to 3PL's minds will naturally to optimize their routes, because optimizing your routes means you are able to deliver more with less resources, thus cutting your carbon footprint. However, route planning is actually a very manual and tedious process, compounded with the fact that these 3PLs often receive the delivery manifest late, given by the retailers, and therefore leaving them very little time to plan efficient routes for their fleet. So what most 3PLs do will be to divide the delivery area into zones and then assign some drivers to each zone to complete the deliveries. So now I would like to look into how hand-drawn zones plans routing work. For the sake of simplicity and illustration, I'm going to simply divide the map of Singapore into 4 zones as you see here. And next, let us look at a route plan that is based on these hand-drawn zones. Once again, this is an oversimplification of how zones are usually demarcated. I'm doing so for the purpose of easier explanation of the point. So all the map pins that you see on this map are delivery stops to be made, and the ones in purple, green, blue, and yellow have been assigned successfully to drivers, while the map pins in red are the ones that are left unserved. As you can see, the demand required by each zone is different. The demand for delivery is normally unpredictable and it fluctuates, right? So therefore, it is unrealistic to expect that each zone will actually have an even distribution of stops. And given that the number of stops actually varies from zone to zone, this means that some drivers in some zones will be underutilized, while others in zones like Zone 2 will have plenty of stops left unserved. As you can see, this method of route planning results in inefficient resource allocation as well as poor route optimization. Now, this route plan has exactly the same number of stops in the exact same distribution as the route plan that we have seen earlier. It also uses the same number of drivers working the same set of working hours. But the difference is, this route plan is planned using dynamic clustering in place of hard-drawn zones. So as you have now observed, it is missing the red map pins that we saw earlier, which means no stops are left unserved. Dynamic clustering is a better route planning strategy, as using the natural clustering to create the zones that will be shaped by the actual demand of the stop needing to be served, rather than a hard-drawn zone. So using such a route plan will yield better resource allocation, as most of the drivers will be given a more even workload distribution, as well as being able to traverse their travel run for the day in a natural cluster pattern like you see over here. So even when we are able to use routing strategies like dynamic clustering to maximize the resources, what happens when it comes to implementing other sustainable delivery measures, which requires a whole different set of unique constraints that will make route optimization far more challenging than just maximizing the resources? So as we look to having a zero carbon emission last mile, one common strategy, as you already would have experienced, is to use walkers and electric scooters. Walkers and electric scooters are zero carbon emission, and electric scooters are readily available at low cost, and both of which does not contribute to traffic congestion, and therefore will be able to alleviate the pressure on road network. So let us look at what are the limitations in planning routes for such a fleet. This is definitely an interesting idea to adopt, but how do we actually do it in actual implementation stage? So first of all, walkers, like you and I, humans, we cannot walk very far nor very fast. The estimated walking speed for an average human will be about 4 kilometers per hour, with a limited travel distance estimated at about 1 kilometer radius from the starting point, with a limited carrying capacity of about 31 liters on a carry bag, while electric scooters will have a faster average speed of 25 kilometers per hour, with a larger travel radius estimated at about 3 kilometers, and also a similar load capacity just like the walkers. So now let's look at a sample route that supports deliveries made by walkers and scooters. All the map pins you see here once again are delivery stops, and the map pins that are blue and orange in the center have been assigned to walkers, while the rest have been assigned to electric scooters. So as you can tell, this route plan has been planned according to the travel distance radius of the walkers as illustrated by the smaller circle, as well as the electric scooters by the larger circle. The black icon that you see in the middle is the depot from which both the walkers and the scooters will move out from. So the benefits of this route plan, as you can tell, is that the walkers will be able to maximize their usage around the radius that they can service, whereas the electric scooters will be able to cover a larger external radius. To make this route plan feasible, it also has to follow the logic of allowing the walkers to actually take on the deliveries that are within the 1 kilometer radius first, given their shorter traveling distance, whereas after all the stops have been taken by them, the remaining ones, as illustrated by number 2, the dark green stop at the bottom, would then be assigned to electric scooters, who will then continue to cover the ones that are in the 3 kilometer radius. So, given a suitable route plan on hand, you will be able to maximize the use of a zero carbon emission fleet like a walkers and electric scooters, while at the same time maximizing their deliveries. But what happens for stops that is beyond the 3 kilometer travel radius that can be covered within the range of the electric scooters and walkers? Let us now have a look at using electric delivery truck. Electric delivery trucks are also zero carbon emission. It has a much wider range of about 100 kilometers on a full charge. And it is in line with the industry movement for zero greenhouse gas emission, just like IKEA's sustainability and electric vision, which set its targets at achieving zero greenhouse gas emission for all its last mile deliveries by the year 2025. So what about the route planning limitations for an electric truck fleet? First, electric trucks need to be recharged on a daily basis, and therefore the route plan will need to be able to restrict the limit range for each vehicle per run. And also, unlike petrol kiosks, which are readily available, the charging facilities for electric vehicles are limited. And therefore, the route plan will also have to take care of ensuring that this electric truck returns to its designated charging station by a specific time. Now, let us look at a separate route plan for an electric truck. All the map pins in blue you see here marks out the stops and the sequence that has been assigned to one electric truck. The black icon you see there represents the charging station from which this electric truck has moved out from and will return to. So for the sake of simplicity and explanation, we are assuming that there will be a warehouse beside the charging station, which is likely going to be the case in the future where electric trucks use mature. So as you can see from this route here, we are using a different route planning strategy called the directed depot-to-depot routing. So the directed depot-to-depot routing, what exactly is it? It follows the basic principle of assigning a designated route to a vehicle to direct it to go back to its depot without having to incur excessive empty miles. As you can see from the route plan here, this electric truck started at stop 1 and it traversed the path ending at stop 42, which gives it enough time for it to move back to the charging station indicated by the black icon. The entire run for this truck is 100 kilometers, which is the restricted range of an electric truck. So, while using electric fleet as well as walkers is a choice for many right now, it is actually a requirement for delivering in low emission zones. So what is a low emission zone? A low emission zone is a defined area where access by some polluting vehicles is being restricted. These zones will favor vehicles entry such as certain alternative fuel vehicles, hybrid electric vehicles, or zero emission vehicles such as an all electric vehicles. To combat air pollution, as we mentioned earlier, governments are coming up with low carbon emission zones. As of now, there are about 250 low emission zones in Europe, and in Hong Kong, the governments have marked out 3 junctions: Central, Causeway Bay, and Mong Kok as LEZs for commercial franchise buses. So what is the route planning challenges that we have for areas with LEZ? First of all, the route plan would either have to avoid the LEZ entirely or more realistically make plans to traverse with a mixed fleet that comprises of low emission vehicles and also fuel consuming ones. Additionally, the route plan will also need to ensure that the low emission vehicle is fully utilized, as it can both cover stops in the LEZ as well as beyond. So now let's take a look at a separate route plan for a mixed fleet covering an area with LEZ. For the sake of simplicity, we are only going to look at one vehicle that is low carbon emission, marked in yellow, and the other, which is a petrol consuming truck, marked by the dark green stops. So the zone that is drawn out in black is the LEZ, and only the low carbon emission vehicle will be able to cover the stops within. And over here, resources maximized by allowing it to also cover stops that are outside. Whereas for the petrol consuming vehicle, he will traverse in a pattern to maximize his run but yet avoiding the LEZ. As you can see, there are many different constraints to be covered when they talk about route planning for sustainable delivery measures. So how do you choose the right planning strategy to support your sustainable delivery? First of all, you will need to consider the factors in your delivery area. Does it have the presence of low emission zones? What about the state of traffic congestion? Does it have any topography restrictions? And finally, the maturity as well in the use of green mobility options. I'm sure we all know and have heard of some route planning solutions that offer or claim that they can solve the route planning problem, right? However, vehicle route planning problem is an NP-hard problem, which means it is virtually impossible to solve. In order to plan for 100 stops, you can roll up to 100 and even 1,000 different permutations that is possible for the best route to run. And in order to generate the best route, it will actually take years to do so. Therefore, in such cases, heuristics are being used. But however, not all heuristics-based algorithms are made equal, as algorithms actually make use of simplistic straight lines to do the calculation. Although this is very fast, simplistic straight lines cannot cater to topography as well as many of the different constraints. Just imagine the route is calculated by cutting across a mountain. Therefore, we will need to consider the solution that can cater to all the different constraints, and also to ensure that these constraints can work well together in order to produce the best results. This is why we created Elastic Route, the one solution that can implement all the above strategies supporting sustainable delivery. It uses a hybrid heuristics algorithm to generate routes at hyperspeed and making it very scalable for use by large fleets. It is also able to tailor to many dynamic constraints, and with an API ready, it can be implemented alongside with many different systems. Let's take a look at the benchmark of Elastic Route. To plan 1,000 stops without first having to assign the stops to drivers, it will only take less than 5 minutes. And for 5,000 stops, we are looking at less than 30 minutes. And I would like to end my presentation here. Thank you so much for your time.